There are 8 types of abusive men. Do you know how to avoid them? Number 1, the permanent clinger. This is a needy, victim-based man. Number 2, the parental seeker. He wants a parent, not a partner. Number 3, the emotionally unavailable man. He might be married, separated, or dating someone else. He's preoccupied with other things. Number 4, the man with the hidden life. Could be another family, an addiction, criminal history. Number 5, the mentally ill man. He seems normal at first, but he'll hold you emotionally hostage. Number 6, the addict. Whatever his addiction, it won't present itself right away. Number 7, the violent or abusive man. He starts out attentive and loving, and then he pulls the switch. Number 8, the emotional predator. He hunts for victims by targeting their emotional vulnerabilities. Have you dated men like this? Do you know how to avoid men like this? Do you think we need a part 2? I think we need a part 2. There are 8 types of abusive men. Here's the 8 types, but let's dig into the first one, the permanent clinger. This man, he's needy. He's victim-based. He'll give you a lot of attention, but it's contingent upon his needs being met all the time. He fears rejection. He's jealous of the people in your life. He's controlling or coercively controlling. He'll tell you all about his past trauma, and then he'll weaponize that trauma against you. Permanent clingers have excellent salesmanship. At first, they seem like the opposite of every man that's ever harmed you. They become the hero that you'll never leave. These guys move quickly to make sure that you're the center of their world. His biggest fear is to be rejected by you. Learn more about dangerous men and how to avoid them in the upcoming webinar, How Could I Have Fallen for a Dangerous Man? Sandra L Brown, an expert in pathological love relationships, will be interviewed. Author Sandra L Brown describes 8 types of abusive men. Here are the 8 types, but let's dig into the second one, the parental seeker. Here's a distinguishing feature about this type of dangerous man. His childlikeness is actually childishness. Who wants that? This one might seem passive. He might be a mama's boy. He can even seem loyal. Parental seekers are often looking for their absent parent, not necessarily their mother. Many of these men have complicated separation and anxiety issues with their mother. One important thing to note is that this hole that they're missing can never be filled. Some of these men act like children, and some of them act like rebellious teenagers. These types often need constant reassurance. They like to be waited on. More often than not, they don't participate in household chores. There's often nothing overly threatening about these types. Parental seekers often wear out their relationships, and they're very hard to leave. Do you know how to spot a dangerous man? There's 8 types. Here's a list of all 8 types, but let's talk about the third one, the emotionally unavailable man. Here's a not-so-fun fact. These ones qualify as women's #1 choice in the various types of dangerous men. Did you know that the word dangerous doesn't only apply to physically abusive men? Emotionally unavailable men wreak havoc on our lives. This man, he might be married, separated, or dating someone else. He may devote all of his time to his friends, his hobbies, or his career. The point is, he's fixated on things that aren't your relationship. His relationship with you is a second thought. Being passionate about your career or hobbies isn't a negative trait in men. But we're talking about the men that are chronically unavailable for relationships, but who pretend that they want one. These guys often appear to be well-rounded. They might seem exciting or interesting, but they're often womanizers. Do you want to know how to spot a dangerous man? Author Sandra L Brown says that there are 8 types. Here's all 8, but let's talk about the fourth one, the man with the hidden life. You don't know the man with the hidden life, and it's not because you don't want to. It's because you aren't allowed to. This man, he leaves you feeling the most fooled. How can you decide if a man is a good fit if you don't know who he is? Men with hidden lives, they have complicated histories. They don't feel connected to people. They desire the high, the chase, the challenge. These types feel entitled to have their cake and eat it too. They don't believe that their other life is any of your concern. This is a man who says that he's private, says that he doesn't like other people in his business. In the beginning, some of this may seem alluring. The lack of information, it can be intriguing. He's successful in conning you because he's vague. He disguises his secrets by calling it privacy. Did you know that according to author Sandra L Brown, there are 8 types of abusive men? Here's a list of all 8, but let's get into the 5th one, the mentally ill man. Getting involved with someone who's mentally ill is a commitment to a lifetime of someone else's pain. First of all, what we're not going to do is label people who are mentally ill as dangerous. We're only talking about the dangerous ones. The main thing that makes these men dangerous is that their problems are long-term. Mentally ill men, they cost women a lot. What he looks and acts like today may not be true for tomorrow. We don't know that these men are mentally ill right up front, and often the men don't know either. Often we want to help them, and what a huge gamble that is considering most of these men don't want help. Some of these men have brain chemistry issues that make them unstable. Some, it's genetic. These problems won't change. These men are successful due to women's general lack of knowledge in pathological relationships. Did you know that there are 8 types of dangerous men? Author Sandra L Brown discusses it in her book, How to Spot a Dangerous Man. Here's all 8, but let's talk about number 6, the addict. The author says that we often end up with this type because we're not on the lookout for them. It's broken down into 2 types of addictions. The first is addictions to behaviors or substances. The other she calls pseudo-productive addictions. An example of that is a workaholic. What's so bad about being a workaholic? These types are doing it to the extent that they have no time for anything else. They can be overachievers. Nothing's ever good enough. On the surface, this one doesn't appear dangerous. Addiction 101, the addiction impacts everyone around the addict. I do want to note that not all addicts are dangerous or abusive. A dangerous addict can be dysfunctional, destructive. At first, this type often seems to be fun, thrill-seeking. There are 8 types of dangerous men according to author and researcher Sandra L Brown. Here's the list of all 8, but let's talk about number 7, the abusive or violent man. This is the man that we all fear. The one that too many women have met, dated, and married. He's often physically abusive, but not always. These men are never abusive on the first couple of dates. They intentionally wait until they're in a relationship with you. Women don't often call out the dangerous behaviors that they see early on with these types, but silence is acceptance to a violent mind. You may call him out, but to him, staying is consent. Just as addictions are progressive, so is violence. These dangerous men, they want power and control. Most of these men were raised in violent households. 50% of these men also have drug and alcohol issues, and that compounds the violence. There are 8 types of abusive men. How good are you at spotting them? Here's all 8 types according to author Sandra L Brown. Let's talk about the 8th one, the emotional predator. The emotional predator can sense a woman's emotional vulnerabilities. Pathological men have revealed that they can scan a room and sense which women will make the best targets for them. They often don't know how or why they have this gift. As time goes on, they grow more and more successful at using their charm. These men often have pathological personality disorders. These dangerous men have an ability to slip under the radar. They can be extraordinarily smooth. The emotional predator wants something from you. It might be to own you. It might be your money. It might be that you help him establish his image. To be most successful, they initiate rapid emotional intimacy. That's the love bombing. They figure you out fast, and they hone in on your needs. They often feel like your soulmate.